Well, thanks a lot for coming out, everybody. This is a great turnout, and thank you to all the candidates for coming. This is an honor to have everyone here, and it's just a pleasure to be part of this. You know, our intent here, well, first of all, my name is Joel Johansson. I'm the president of the Chamber of Commerce, and I don't speak in public very often, so please bear with me. I'll try and muddle through this as quick as I can. So our intent of having this forum is to give everybody the opportunity to meet the candidates and find out where they stand on a few issues. Now, we have a lot of candidates and we have a limited amount of time, so it won't be a comprehensive interview with every candidate, but it should give you each candidate an opportunity to let you know where they stand on certain points. So we have questions that are all up here being sorted out and gathered together for presentation throughout the evening. So I would like to take a moment and introduce our board members here who are all volunteering. So when I call out your name, if you could just give a wave. I mentioned Mike Williams from Western Mobile. We have Carrie Pratt from the Woodshed Axe Throwing. We have Dwayne Stays from 7 Points Media back in the corner there. We have Doug McGill from Blackstone Developments in 60 West right over there. We have Shireen Dakin from Buckwilds and Viva right here. We got Dave Phillips from MGT Limestone. We have Crystal Lance. Nope, she's on the list, but I don't think she made it in Alicism. No. So most importantly, we have Tracy Soroka, which is right over there. She basically put the whole thing together. And thank you, Tracy, for all your work. And our executive director, Denise Williams, could not make it tonight, but she's been working like a fiend at home. She's helped out put all this together and gave all kinds of notes. I got about 4 pages of notes that I got to go through. So that's the chamber members that are all here this evening, and thank you for your efforts here. I'd like to thank the town of Sylvan Lake for donating this room in the new building. It's a beautiful building, and it's a great use of it here. Also, thank Tim Hortons for the coffee and the refreshments at the back there. So, I'd also like to congratulate Sean McIntyre on winning another term by acclamation. I'm not sure, is he here? Are you here, Sean? There he is. There you go. Congratulations. So, and most importantly, thank you to all the candidates for coming here. This, I know this is can be a little bit trying, and you're facing the public, and the questions are going to come. So, it's your efforts are appreciated, and I wish you all the best of luck. So, I guess what I'll do now is turn it over to Mike, and he'll go through some housekeeping items. So enjoy the evening, everybody. Thank you.
Before we go, I'm just going to bring up Monique Pummings from the town of Sylvan Lake. She's just going to go over the emergency procedures. There you go.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Next Door Center. In the event of an emergency, we will evacuate out these doors that you came through down to the north side of the building, and we will muster in the railway promenade, which is in the green space. In the event that we are unable to access those doors, we will take a right and we will exit out the south side of the building. If you have any questions, please head to reception and they will assist you with anything that you need help with. Thank you.
Thank you, Monique. Well done. Sorry, I put her on the spot there with about 2 seconds to prepare. Okay, I'm going to go over the rules of order for the event tonight, for the forum. So the candidates are going to have 90 seconds to expand on their political forum in their opening statements. During the question period, questions will be received from the floor in written form, as we've asked you upon entering tonight. And a facilitator will be giving questions to the chair, we'll introduce Kelly in just a moment here. And the chair will use her discretion in balancing the written questions. We also have our team from the chamber, Dave and Shireen, that are also reviewing and vetting the questions. The reason we're doing that is so we don't have the same question repeated multiple times. Responses from the candidates are limited to 1 minute, and Dave will also be doing double duty as working the timer. The chair or facilitator will rule out of order any questions deemed appropriate, inappropriate, offensive, or derogatory, which shouldn't be an issue because we're vetting them ahead of time. And the chair will have final jurisdiction in all matters. And finally, I just would like everybody to be aware that this event is being streamed live on Facebook and taped for future broadcast for those that couldn't make it tonight by the town of Sylvan Lake. So thank you very much to the town for facilitating that, and also just to be aware that that's happening. And I think that's it. So I'm going to bring Joel back up one more time, and he's going to introduce our moderator, and we'll get on with the event.
Okay, it's my great pleasure to introduce Kelly Stewart from Roanoke Law Office. Kelly has been part of the Sylvan Lake community for the past 14 years. Until recently, Kelly's been practicing law in downtown Calgary, and the last 2.5 years she has been with Roanoke. As of July 1st, Kelly has become a full-time Laker, and we'd like to thank Kelly very much for coming out and helping with our forum. So, your moderator for this evening, Kelly Stewart. Kelly, I got your tape.
Thank you. I think this should be okay for my height, a little shorter than Joel. It is my role tonight to assist in this process because we do have a large number of candidates, so we have a lot to get through, and lots of people have questions, and we want to hear from our candidates. So I just want to go over what the format of how the questions are going to be dealt with. So as was mentioned already, that each of the candidates is going to have an opportunity to speak, and I will get them to do that shortly. Those who are attending here today, all of you members, are allowed to submit a written question, which our team here is looking at those questions. Those questions that will be read to be answered by the candidates. We can't guarantee that every question that is put forward by the members here, but we do encourage you to put forward any questions that we will try and get to as much as we can. So there will be no live questions asked for this evening. It will all be by way of written questions. So if you haven't had a chance to write a question and you do have a question, make sure you get a copy of the question form to fill out. Now, I'm going to, as I ask the questions, how we deal with this is that I will read the question, then I will pick a name, and the first candidate that I pick, that person has to answer that question, and they have 1 minute to answer that question. I will then draw a name for the next candidate to answer the question, and then a third candidate. And then at the end of that, all the names will go to the side, and then I will start the process again of asking the next question and follow that same process of pulling the names. So we want to try and get the questions to be answered by all the candidates if we possibly can. When all the names have been drawn, they'll go back into the little bucket I have here, and then we'll restart the process. So what I want to do is just quickly go down the list of our candidates that we have here before we have them do their showcase. We have Daryl Carrier. We have Megan Chernoff Hansen. We have Charles Everest. Ted Iverson, Kendall Koss, Chris Lust, Barry McGow, Tim Mearns, Graham Parsons, Jas Payne, Matthew Preet, Teresa Rilling, Star Roshik, and Deborah Weens. I am going to start with the first question, and then I will draw the first name. Oh, right. I'm sorry. forgot a step in the process here. Again, as mentioned earlier, that each of the candidates will have 90 seconds to give their comments to the audience, and they will be timed. And I see that Mike is carrying the microphone to provide that for each of them. So we will start with Daryl, and we will move down to the end.
Okay. Daryl, you ready for your opening statement?
Sure.
Okay.
Would you like me to stand? It's up to you. Okay. Good evening, fellow Sylvan Lakers. I want to thank everyone for attending tonight, and a special thanks to Tim Hortons for the complimentary coffee, and to Kelly Stewart and the volunteers for helping chair this forum. My name is Daryl Carrier. I've been a Sylvan Lake resident for over 5 years now. This is home. I'm here tonight because I believe our town needs to be moving in the right direction. I've been fortunate enough to consult with several residents and several small business owners, and there's many issues that need to be dealt with. Thank you.
Mine is much longer than that. Good evening, everyone. My name is Megan Chernoff-Hansen, and I have lived in Sylvan Lake for the past 10 years. From my early teen years, I've had two main interests: volunteering in my community and politics. My father served 12 years as a municipal councillor, and he always encouraged me to share my voice and my passion for my community. 4 years ago, I asked for your vote of confidence when it came to electing me into the position of town councillor. Thank you for your support. Since the 2013 election, I have gained so much knowledge, but ultimately, many of my goals and values have remained the same. This time, I'm excited to put my name forward as a council candidate with a deeper understanding of what is required to make a real change in our community. As you may have noticed with my name change, my personal life has also gotten a lot more exciting since the last election. I'm now married to my husband, Ryan, and a stepmom to his 3 children. Having a young family has given me a new appreciation for many parts of our Sylvan Lake culture. I still enjoy spending my time volunteering, and I've worked hard on your behalf through many town and regional committees. Outside of council, I volunteer as the co-chair of the Sylvan Lake Spray Park Committee. I was the volunteer coordinator for the entire Craft Hockeyville run, and I enjoy helping out at many other community events. I'm running for council with a firm commitment, halfway, thank you. With a firm commitment to growing our town in a positive, progressive manner. I have a solid balance between seeing a need for controlled development, fiscal responsibility, and a passion for social services. If elected, I will use my community involvement, along with 4 years of council experience, to make Sylvan Lake a strong, vibrant, and stable community that I am proud to call my home. On October 16th, I respectfully ask that you consider voting Megan Chernoff-Hansen for council. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Charlie Everest, and I'd like to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to come this evening. I have lived in Sylvan Lake for 16 years now with my wife and 2 energetic boys in grade 3 and grade 7. The other day, I was driving my youngest boy to school, and he said, Dad, a bunch of kids from school were saying that you're going to take over the mayor's job. I said, no, son, I'm applying for a job to help the mayor, to sit at the table with the mayor, to make some town decisions. He said, whew. That's good, because the mayor's been doing an excellent job, which he has. All the councillors and the mayor, you've done an excellent job in the last 4 years, and I thank you for it. My wife and I own a small property maintenance management business, and we've just started a new tourism venture, the Sylvan Lake Aquasplash, the first open water park in Alberta. I have coached soccer for the last 8 years and hockey for 3. I've been on the Waterfront Revitalization Committee for a year. Each time I drive through our downtown, it saddens me to see all the vacant buildings and the hustle and bustle that it used to have. My work background started in the oil field, since I've been in tourism and property management for 25 years, having managed lakefront businesses for the last 15 and spending time scuba diving in the lake for the last 2. The health of the lake is a concern for me. The lake is our gem, and we need to take care of it. If I had the privilege of sitting on council, I would be the voice for residents on the following issues: support, advocate, and represent the small business community by working to develop an environment of growth and sustainability, effective and appropriate revitalization, beautification of the downtown core that reflects the input of all town residents, growing Sylvan Lake as a year-round tourist destination in a responsible and sustainable manner, and giving voice to all facets of the community, and lake health. We need to support the Sylvan Lake Watershed Group to preserve this important resource. To conclude, I'm passionate in serving the local business community, hearing and voicing the concerns of all town residents, and working with all the committed community groups to make Sylvan Lake brilliant all year. I ask for your vote on the 16th. Thank you.
For those who don't know me, I'm a former mayor and a former councillor of the town of Sylvan Lake. I've had some of the people I know well ask me lately, why? Why are you trying to come back? And basically I have some concerns about infrastructure. I feel that even though we've been building a lot of very nice buildings, that some of our infrastructure, namely sewer, water, and transportation, has kind of gone a bit by the wayside. I feel that the main business here in Sylvan Lake, as a realtor, I notice that we're kind of losing our edge, the edge that we always had as a place to live. The people are taking other choices, is what I notice. I'm taking people other places when I used to mostly just take them to Sylvan. And I'm trying to understand why. Part of it is cost, I believe. And I think we just lost some of our vibrancy from the years that I was mainly on council in the 90s. I'd like to get back there where we were I would say probably the finest mid-sized community in the whole nation. We set records on growth. And we just had an atmosphere and a culture that I really loved. I think we're kind of missing that a bit. I'm not sure if it's our size or what it is. But I'd like to get back there, if that's possible. And I know that many of you that have been here for a long time understand what I'm talking about when I mean culture. The downtown, the tourism, those type of items. And if I get back on council, I'll work hard to bring the town back to what I consider was our best time. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. After growing up outside of Sylvan Lake, my wife, Carrie, and I, we moved our family from our family farm near Sylvan Lake into Sylvan Lake in 2005 so we could fully engage within the community we were serving. As an educational leader and community-first activist, I'm committed to striving for excellence, accountability, and authentic engagement. Sylvan Lake is an adaptable and resilient community which deserves a proactive, dedicated, and collaborative counselor that reflects the forward thinking of Sylvan Lake. I believe Sylvan Lake has the opportunity to demonstrate to other municipalities how a community can thrive within transparent fiscal responsibility while remaining as a prosperous and attractive community to invest in. As a local school teacher and lifelong learner, the past 15 years I've intentionally centered my professional development and personal goals around serving my community in 4 of our schools through volunteerism and engaging residents in conversation. I believe that with the right strategic priorities in place, we can work to keep Sylvan Lake moving forward. What I bring to the table is balance of depth and diverse experiences, supporting local businesses by spending local, seeing current projects to fruition, and advocating affordability options for our long-term residents are my top priorities. As a fresh face to council, I will bring a community-first approach that aligns with Sylvan Lake's vision as a sustainable place to live, work, and play. I welcome the responsibility that a councillor is expected to uphold, and I embrace the opportunity to be elected a council position. So on October 16th, I humbly ask for your support by voting for Kendall Kloss. Thank you so much.
The day we cut the ribbon to open the Next Source Center, I looked around and I saw the excitement and awe in everybody's faces. I was so proud to be part of this community as we celebrated this great achievement, and look where we are now. This council has accomplished much, but our work is not done. My key areas of focus are to continue initiatives that support downtown revitalization, creating a healthy business environment, and livable neighborhoods, all in a fiscally responsible way. My first key focus is downtown revitalization. A lot of work has gone into creating an exciting downtown experience. Still to come is the planning and development of Lakeshore Park, the former water slide property. This will be an opportunity to create a community space accessible to the lake, as well as an economic driver for the downtown area. My second focus is to create a healthy business environment. We annexed land along Highway 11A that will provide the land base for new industrial and commercial development, and also helping to address our non-resident tax base. My third area of focus is to create livable and sustainable neighborhoods. The renewed municipal development plan, land use bylaw revisions, and the environmental master plan have set the planning landscape to make this an amazing place to live. So revitalization of the downtown, creating a healthy business environment, and building livable neighborhoods needs the continuity. Those needs need the continuity, experience, and knowledge base I bring to the council table. I'm very proud to have served the residents of Sylvan Lake over the last 4 years, and I would ask you to once again vote Chris Lust for Town Council on October 16th.
My name is Philip Barry McGow. I was born in Stettler, Alberta. I've owned a house in Sylvan Lake for 30 years, actually over 30 years. I've been around the world a bit, and I had my house rented out while I was gone. But I look at things that matter to each and every one of us. We also have to remember that as we have our growth and everything going on and all these costs incurred in some of these beautiful developments, that we have people in this town with fixed incomes who are being pushed pretty hard with increased fees and increased taxes and everything else. And we have to use judgment as we go forward as to how far we want to go with tax increases. What are they going to be in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? Okay? For the young, upwardly mobile individual, it's not a big deal right now. But for a person on fixed income, you got their house paid for, thought everything was fine, and they're being pushed back into a corner by expense and things like that. And that's something that at council, we have to use judgment. And what I like to do is, I'm retired now and I have the time and I'm willing to serve. And it's up to you whether you want a fresh face in there and you want some due diligence and some fiscal responsibility in where we're going with all these user fees, our utility prices and everything else. We've gone up a long ways. I can remember 30 years ago it was $55 every two months for my water and sewer, and my last bill was $185, and I only live in a 2-bedroom house with 1 bathroom, you know. I'm not sure what people are paying in 4-bedroom houses with 2 or 3 bathrooms. But those are costs that go against you every month or every second month. You're looking at higher grocery fees and everything else, and we have to be fiscally responsible to our citizens. I've run out of time. Thank you very much. If you want some change, October the 16th, vote Barry McGow. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tim Mearns. I've been part of the Sylvan Lake community for 25 years. My wife Lori and I have 3 children, Lauren, Ethan, and Nolan. I've been involved in business in Central Alberta for over 13 years as a business advisor. While working alongside business through the challenging economy, I've seen the importance of making well-informed decisions and being fiscally responsible. Every decision that Town Council makes needs to ensure that fiscal guidelines are being followed. No matter what is being presented, it's crucial to gauge the need versus the want, as well as what the return on investment is. I have 3 items on my platform that fall in line with Sylvan Lake's mission and vision. The first is placing a focus on responsible investment for the community. The second is encouraging new business development to provide balanced and sustainable taxation. And thirdly, it's important to remember that 31% of our population is over the age of 45. I want to see that housing and infrastructure are a part of the development planning for those who intend to retire in Sylvan Lake. As a town councillor, I will strive to be informed. I'll be a representative of your voice at the table when decisions are being made. I value open and honest communication, and my commitment to you is to listen and to hear what you have to say and be an advocate for the people of Sylvan Lake. I love this community, I'm excited for its future, and I look forward to the opportunity to serve the citizens of Sylvan Lake as town councillor. When you cast your ballot, I respectfully ask that you elect Tim Mearns for town council. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It has been an honor and a privilege to serve on council for the past 7 years. The last 4 have been extremely gratifying because not only did we finish the business that we started, some of the business we started in my first term, but we started some new business that is very exciting. My colleagues and I know how hard it is to work and how hard we worked this last term. We're very proud of the accomplishments we've made, but there is much work to do. One of my gratifying platforms is when I was a kid, we had a recreation director came into my hometown of Camrose. And he picked, I was lucky enough to be one of the kids that got to go to some leadership seminars, some team building efforts at a young age. So what happened after that, I had a career of, a little small career in pro hockey, moved to town, became a businessman, and got involved in the community all through for the last 40 years in this town. I've seen lots of change. I've seen lots of things go on, but I've always worked hard, always had public service at the front of my mind. I was on the rec board twice when I was 25 and 37. I was president of minor hockey when I was 29, before I had kids. But the main thing is invest, my platform is invest in your youth, because they are the future. And what happened with me, someone invested in my future. I was very gratified, and so I want to invest in the youth of this town because they are the future. So, on the election day, thank you very much for electing me the last time. Hopefully it goes forward, same thing. Good luck to all the candidates.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jazz Payne, and I've been a councillor with the town for the last 4 years. I moved to Sylvan Lake about 9 years ago from Fort McMurray, where I was a guidance counselor there, working with high school kids. That's my passion. That's where I live and breathe every day, is working with kids and working with helping them discover their possibilities, discover their futures. That's my day job. The rest of my time I spend hoping to achieve the goals that I've set. In 2013, I set a goal to be elected to council, and fortunately I was elected. Since then, I've been able to work and learn, as Councillor Chernoff Hansen said earlier, these last 4 years have been a PhD in learning how to serve the community. And I've been able to do that on several different boards, several different councils, and it's been nothing but a learning experience. So I think at this point, having that experience, having those 4 years is invaluable. Within the community, I serve as an organizer and a director with Hockeyville, which seems like 150 years ago. I serve in the Yuletide Committee that I got recruited to, and it's been a joy since then. I get to help organize Shake the Lake. I get to do a lot of stuff. I have a wonderful family that supports that. I have a wife who is very supportive, 3 kids who I get to see occasionally. They move fast. My commitment to family and family values hasn't changed any since I started this 4 years ago. What it does is it forces me to think much more fiscally responsibly. The accountability is important to me. Fiscal responsibility is important to me, and it's been an earmark of what I've been able to try and do over these last 4 years. I'm committed to the families of Sylvan Lake. I'm committed to continuing to do so. On election day, please, if you have an opportunity. If you feel the will, select Jazz Payne for council once again. Thank you.
Good evening, folks. You know, I've been interested in politics since I was a teenager, and over the years, I've developed a couple of core things that I believe are very important in politics, and one is vision. The concept of council, really, what council's job is vision, and the other core principle that I have is if you do the right thing, the politics will look after themselves. You don't have to do everything worrying about politics and how it's going to present and all that kind of stuff. Just do the right thing. And I'll give you an example of that. When we first started on this last council, this building wasn't even a concept. And we were sitting in one of our very early meetings and talking about what we were going to do. And you know what? There was a lot of politics happening at the time. There was issues with the curling club, and there was issues with the seniors, and issues with the multiplex, the minor hockey, and the aquatic center, and Graham's contract over at the old rink. And we had all these political issues that were happening that weren't getting solved. And so we're sitting around the table, what are we going to do here? And as we're sitting there, I said to these guys, you know, we should be curling on 48th Street. And they kind of looked at me, and I said, what do you mean? So I got up and I drew a picture on the board. And I said, here's the multiplex, here's the aquatic center, here's the old rink. We're going to build something new there. But what makes sense is to build in between and bring this all together. Maybe if we invite the curling people back in, maybe if we invite the seniors and invite everybody back in and show them this vision for this all-inclusive facility, that we can do something. And you know what? They picked up on that really quick. And the first question was, well, you can't do that. There's services under that road. Don't care about the services. Is this the right thing for the community? And you know what? Sitting around the council table, that was about a 10-minute decision on this council's part to say, yes, this is the right thing. Let's go and invite all those guys back in. And you know what? All the politics fell to the side when we did the right thing for the community. And within 3.5 years, we conceptualized this building, built it, and we've been in it for 6 months. And I think we nailed this thing on the head, and I'm really proud of this facility we have here. So, all right, thank you. Hey, how come I'm the only one that gets shut down, eh?
Thank you, Ms. Stewart, and the Chamber of Commerce for this opportunity to share, and for all you did to put this evening together. Mayor Sean McIntyre, fellow candidates, and residents of Sylvan Lake. Sylvan Lake is hometown to a diverse set of residents, from young growing families to seniors. Since my decision to run for town council, I have learned so much, mostly what I don't know. However, I am willing to learn regarding what's involved in keeping us going and also growing. With my experience in leadership, relational intelligence, and hard work ethic, I believe I will represent you well. It took patience, persistence, and commitment for 6 years, but I am proud and honored to say the anticipated opening of our new advanced ambulatory care service is May 2018. But before I close, can I share my heart with you? My passion is for the hurting and those who feel they have no voice. After spending many hours listening to you, the young and the seasoned, as well as the heart cry of the lonely, abused, and abandoned, both in this community and far beyond, I realize I have a responsibility to help where I can make a difference. A connected community is a strong community. People need to be connected to the resources this amazing town offers. A help to the hurting and a voice to the voiceless flows deep within my heart. Find me on Facebook, ask me your questions, and come for coffee and cookies at Timber on October 4th. Thank you.
Well, hello, good evening. My name is Star Roshek, and I had some things written down here, but that just doesn't feel like I'm being my authentic me. And I really feel like when you guys are going to elect a town councilor, you need to know who you're talking to. And I really want to be out there and listen to all of you and talk to you. And not only just listen to you, but once things are decided on town council, I want to get back out there and tell you guys what's going on. I really want you to feel like you're a part of what's happening here at these tables. And I feel like if you elect me, I'll be able to do that because I really want to get to know each and every one of you, just as well as you'll get to know me. I was raised by a wonderful family full of strong women. Both my grandmothers were on town council. The one grandmother, she served for 25 years as town councilor. Another grandmother was on mayor. So I really feel this is part of legacy for me to come back and give back to our community. So I've been here for about 8 years now, and I've been working the oil field, and I've been working hard, okay? And I haven't been home all the time. I haven't been able to spend time with my children or get to always know all of my community members. And now I've transitioned from that time in my life where I'm no longer away for days and days, and I can't be
out there necessarily volunteering all the time. So now it is my time to give back to the community, and I want to give back to all of you. One of the things that I think that is missing in our town would be arts, culture, and entertainment. I really think that that's going to revitalize our downtown community, as well as also revitalizing just the hearts within ourselves. I love living in Sylvan Lake. I love the fact that I live here and share it with all of you, and that people come here to visit us. And so if we can continue to draw people in with arts and culture and entertainment, I think that our town is going to grow again, and we're going to get that spark back that one of the other candidates mentioned. So I hope you vote for me, and I hope I get to know all of you a lot better. Thank you.
I really am going to fall off this forum here. So my name is Deborah Weens. I also did not write anything down. I try to speak from my heart. So I'm just going to give you a brief who I am. So I moved here from Edmonton about 1.5 years ago with my husband. We adopted a 12-year-old child. I was a foster parent in Edmonton. And I have a 2-year-old son and a 23-day-old son who is in the back there. So if he cries, I'm sorry. We moved here because I took a promotion and I became the RCMP detachment supervisor. My husband works at Bowden Institution. We looked around here, we looked at Red Deer, we looked at Innisfail, and we just fell in love with Sylvan. And we thought this is the place that we need to be. And shortly, it kind of solidified because shortly after we moved here, I was offered the crime prevention coordinator for all of Alberta. And that would have meant to move back to Edmonton. And we talked about it as a family, and we decided this is our forever home. We want to be here for the rest of our lives. My husband could retire in a few years, so I have the senior down there, honey. And then we have the 2-year-old and the 23-year-old, so we have the youth, and then I have a 12-year-old teenager, so I kind of got all your demographics. So I'm going to try to make sure I hit them all. My main thing is fairness, though. I believe that everybody should be treated fairly, and if that means we really need to look at seniors and youth, we just got to look at a way to treat everyone the same and give everyone the services. So I hope you vote for me on October 16th. Thank you.
I'll just start that over again. I was wondering as I was talking and calling the names, I didn't hear any echo. So I'm going to start the process, and I just want to let the candidates know that I'm going to call out the questions, random names, and they have their 1 minute to answer the question. I'm going to ask the candidates, though, if you could hold the microphone. Here I'm the one to talk about holding the microphone. Mine wasn't even working, but if you could hold the microphone closer so that we could hear you, because I think sometimes it fades in and out. So, so what I'm going to do is start now. I'm going to have my lovely assistant hand me a question. So the first question to the candidates is, what will you do for the youth of the community? The first person that I'm going to get to answer that question is Ted.
Can everybody hear me?
Microphone's coming.
I think for youth, if we work on having good jobs in this community, if we're a prosperous place, what I like to see is in a family, somebody can grow up here and get a job here and never have to go away. That's my estimation of a really good community, when you don't have to leave. When I was a kid, almost everybody left this community for education. Most of them never came back. Some came back when they raised their children because they knew the quality of life was high here. But I think jobs, number one.
Thank you, Ted. My next person that I would like to answer the question of what will you do for the youth of the community is Kendall.
Thank you. My role as an educator, this fits perfectly for me. With my students, every single day, I work with them to allow them to achieve success. So I ask them a question. Well, how do you feel about this? What do you want to do with this? What do you see that we need for Sylvan Lake? And we do this every single day. Now, obviously, with our youth, our programs, we look at our skate park. Amazing. It's phenomenal. Get out there. Get to know the youth. Talk to them. And that's what I do each and every day. I go out. I talk to the youth. Whether you go up to Timber for coffee or you go down to the hockey rink, things like that. That's what I like to do. Talk to them, get them engaged. Once the kids are engaged, we'll start seeing the programs develop from there. And from that, we can reach out to other community services and say, hey, let's partner up. Let's partner up. We can talk to the town, municipal funds. We can look at provincial funds. We can talk at, thank you.
Thank you. And my last person to answer the question of what will you do for the youth of the community is Star.
So what would I do for the youth? I have 2 teenage children. One of them is sitting in the back of the room right now, and I'm glad that he's here because, you know what, last night I had the best evening with him. We went down to Lakeshore, and I got on my skateboard with him, and we just longboarded all around, okay? And if I didn't do that, I wouldn't get to know him. And while I'm doing that, I get to meet all of his little friends and all my daughter's friends, and I get to talk to them. I like going over to Timber and hanging out there, having coffees with them, and just seeing what they're doing. What are they up to? If we don't know what our kids are doing, how are we going to know what they want to do, right? We got to watch their trends and seeing what they're doing on Instagram or Facebook, because sometimes they don't really want to tell us. So we have to start looking and listening to them in different ways and providing those resources with them and creating balance for them with recreation, sports, arts, and culture.
Thank you. My next question that I'm going to ask of the candidates is, why are you running for council? I want you to list your top 3 priorities and proposed solutions. I'm going to start with Chris.
Actually, in my speech earlier, I identified sort of the 3 top areas that I see are really important. In 90 seconds, we really didn't have a lot of time to elaborate on some of the stuff that, that is actually happening. Arts and culture is one of the areas that I think is really important for the downtown revitalization. We now have a culture master plan, and implementation of that plan, in my mind, is one of the key things that we need to do here to make this town brilliant, or brilliant all year round. The second one that I identified was supporting the business community.
Thank you, Chris. I get it. That's a pretty...
I could go on.
Oh, I'm sorry. That you still have your 15 seconds after that.
Okay.
Let's give you your 15 seconds back. I was...
The other piece, the second one is supporting the business community. As a municipality, one of the things that we can do is put in legislation that helps them prosper. They also have a responsibility to be involved in that process, so it's not a one-way street. And the last thing is neighborhoods, sustainable neighborhoods.
Thank you. I'll just repeat the question for our next person is that why are you running for council and what is your top 3 priorities and proposed solutions? And I'm going to ask Megan.
Thank you. I'm running for council because I love Sylvan Lake. A great example of what I want to bring back to Sylvan Lake is the Hockeyville experience. That was the greatest thing over my term on council that we've ever experienced. Just that community spirit that came out of it. It was so great to hang out with our neighbors and do something fun like that. So that's my number 1 reason. I want to be a part of that. I want to create more of that feeling in Sylvan Lake. My number 2 priority is infrastructure. This is something that we need to deal with. It is so costly when we're not planning ahead when it comes to our infrastructure needs that we're you're ending up costing us far more to deal with emergencies when we haven't planned well. So that would be my number 2 priority. And the number 3 priority that I'm working on is growth in our downtown businesses. I've sat on the Waterfront Commercial District for the past 2 years now and really enjoyed some of the ideas we have to bring new life back into our downtown. I think there's lots of things we can do through that committee that will bring great things to Sylvan Lake. So thank you.
Thank you. And so our last candidate to answer the question of why are you running for council, list your top 3 priorities and your proposed solutions. We're going to ask Jazz.
Well, I think my answer is a whole lot like Megan's. I love this community. I don't think anybody up here in the stand is up here because they hate Sylvan Lake. You know, we're all here because we love it. We're all here because we want to see progress. Mine are infrastructure, programming, and to be completely honest, I want to finish what we started. Like, we've done a huge amount over the course of the last 4 years in terms of moving this community forward. Pagotto Park, the Lakefront Park, the downtown revitalization, working with the chamber, working in the community, programming for kids. All these things are important to me, and I think that's why I want to keep being a part of it, is to keep that ball rolling. Active kids are healthy kids. You know, the question was asked earlier about what we would do for our youth. You know, that's where my passion is, that's where my core is, but I really do think that's also where the rest of the community is if we keep the progress going, the growth going, this community is just simply going to get better and better. I don't think the spark is gone. Earlier somebody said the spark was gone. I don't think it's gone at all, and I think that's what we want to keep doing.
Thank you. So my next question for the candidates is, what is the ideal use of the waterside property and why? So I'm going to start with Barry.
Which waterfront property?
The waterslide property.
Waterslide property.
Yes.
The waterslide property, let's just make it a beach and a park and leave it alone. Okay, we've got enough development on the front there. We've got enough buildings obstructing the beach and the lake and the water from the people that are the residents here. A huge apartment building complex right on the beach. We've got the washrooms, the roofs are quite high, you know, on those. And it's hard to see the lake from behind them if you happen to be sitting at a restaurant or something along the beach corridor there. I don't want to see it developed for housing. I don't want to see it developed for anything except maybe just park and picnic and people. For our community, for you and me and everybody else to use when they come down there. You know, you get out there on the weekends and you have people, you have half a Red Deer there out on the beach barbecuing and picnicking, and it's a little hard to find room for yourself out there sometimes.
Thank you, Barry.
But it's a family thing.
Thank you. So the next person I would like to answer the question of what is the ideal use of the waterslide property and why would be Charles.
I think that the ideal use of the waterslide property would, after being there for 15 years in that property, is a waterslide. But having said that, no, there's lots of stuff going on. There could be a band shelter. The town's always wanted a public boat launch, or like this gentleman was saying, just leave it as a park. It's a fantastic park the way it is now. There is a charrette, I believe it's called, a community input session that lasts 4 days in May, and I think the community will come up with exactly what should be on that property, because the Sylvan Lakers are smart and they know what they need. Thank you.
Thank you. The last candidate I would like to answer the question about what is the ideal use of the waterslide property and why is Graham.
Well, yeah, that's a great question. First off, as a counselor, that getting the opportunity to purchase that property was what we call an opportunity we couldn't turn down. Those opportunities have come up previously, and we never took advantage of it. And this time we had to take advantage of it. As Charlie said, there's a charrette coming up. It's what the people want. That's what we're going to do, and that's what I think that's the ideal use, is what you want to do with that park. It will be a vision. It's going to be a wonderful area. It will not be condos, and it will not be buildings. I'm sure it's going to be a park. There is a chance for the band shell. We can team it with the rest of the provincial park that we are taking over next year. So it's just going to be an additional gem, and the people will decide what is going to be there.
Thank you. Now, the next question that I have for the candidates is, which other 5 candidates, in your opinion, would best serve as colleagues of yours on Town Council? All right, first person on the hot seat on that one is Daryl. They are randomly drawn names because there will be. Okay. So let's just hear from Daryl. Okay.
Can I decide who's on the council?
It's a question. These people are put on the hot seat here to answer questions that people are interested in answering.
I was just going to say, should I get elected on council, I'd be fortunate enough. To anybody who has the audacity to put themselves forward, all these candidates up here are all worthy of my vote, and I would work with all of them and any of them, and I'd be more than happy to work with any and all of them.
Thank you. That was a tough question. We're going to ask the other 2 people in the process here, and I'm going to ask which other 5 candidates, in your opinion, would serve best as colleagues of yours, and we're going to ask Matt.
You know, you get those spidey senses that that question's coming your way, right? Well, I can tell you this. You know, as an incumbent councillor, I have a very high comfort level with the people that I've served with in the last 4 years, and I think that we have found a way to work together. We come from different backgrounds, and we work together really well. So, you know, we would probably continue on better that way, I would think, or without too many hiccups. But you know what? The reality is, it's not my decision, and it's up to the people of Sylvan Lake to decide who the other councillors are going to be, and if I'm going to be a councillor again. So I appreciate the opportunity to serve and do what it takes to try and continue on with the path that we've been going on now. So I'm not going to name names because I don't think that's any fun.
Thank you. And now the last person to answer the question about which other 5 candidates, in your opinion, would serve best as colleagues of yours, it would be Deborah.
Well, as I said, I work the RCMP detachment, so I'm very good under stressful situations. So my answer to that is I think anyone here would be all right to work with because all of us have a different perspective. That's why I think the council works so well together is we're all from different backgrounds, we're all from different families, different situations, and to bring those perspectives together is how we're going to represent everyone here to the best of our ability. Everyone here today, I would assume or attempting to be on council, is going to try to do the best for every person here in Sylvan Lake and to be fair about it. Thank you.
Thank you. So the next hot seat question for our candidates is, it's important that you understand what is required of you in your new role. If you haven't been on the previous council Have you gone to attend any of the meetings? And I'm going to ask Teresa.
Yes. Was a yes and no answer. I've been to council meetings as well. I have tried to be involved in many different places. I've gotten to know, I've interviewed all of our current councillors, or previous councillors, I guess, from this day forward or whatever, but I have really grown to learn so much about council. Like I say, I have a lot to learn, but I have really enjoyed the council meetings I've been able to attend, although they tell me that it's cheating to come now because they are short. So on Monday when I went, both our mayor and someone else said, you know, this isn't what it's really like, but I'm looking forward to that if you so choose to vote for me.
Thank you. And I'm also going to ask the same question of our last candidate who I've pulled, and it's important that you understand what is required of you in your new role. If you haven't been on the previous council, have you gone to attend any of the meetings? And I'll ask that of Tim.
So the short answer is yes. Yeah, I've had the privilege of attending some council meetings, going through past minutes, and getting up to speed really quickly on what's important to the town. And echo what Teresa said, we've been forewarned that the meetings that are happening right now are very short, and don't get used to that. So if so elected, I'm looking forward to serving on council and looking forward to some long meetings with whoever else I'm with. So thanks.
Thank you. And now, because of the process, and we have 14 candidates, and there's 3 times I have to reshuffle, and so I'm now restarting. So I'm restarting with the group of, it's important that you understand what's required of you in your new role. If you haven't been on the previous council, have you gone to attend any of the meetings? Barry.
I haven't been to council meetings, but I've been in the town hall quite a few times, dealing with development appeal board issues and zoning changes and things like that. We had a bit of a battle on the go in our own constituency, in our own area, trying to fight against a change from an R2 zoning to an R3 zoning across the street from a neighbor of ours that was just spent $60,000 fixing up his brand new house and single family home when they were thinking about downsizing and potentially selling their home and moving on, and worried about the real estate values with 4 plexes being built across the street in a residential neighborhood. So yes, I've been there, and that's all for me. Thanks.
Thank you. So this is a fairly long question I have for the candidates. So it is, currently the town of Sylvan Lake land use bylaw does not allow for third-party signage for private businesses, which includes both static and digital billboards and portable signs. It's the Chamber of Commerce's position that relaxation of this bylaw could potentially allow these signs in high traffic areas such as Highway 20, and they could provide a great benefit to local businesses, particularly those in the downtown core, by allowing them to reach more potential customers. So if elected, would you be agreeable to working with the Chamber to potentially address this issue? I'm going to ask Charles.
Yes, definitely be working with the Chamber to address this issue. It sounds like it's a very important issue, and I imagine it's going to conflict with a bunch of existing bylaws that are already in place, and there will be a numerous amount of things to consider, from the size of the signs to the brilliance of the signs, if it's going to hamper traffic, all that, wayfinding, everything. So it's going to have to be a well evaluated and thought out process. So it'll be the whole community, I imagine. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll repeat that question because it's a bit long. So currently the town of Sylvan Lake land use bylaw does not allow for third-party signage for private businesses, which includes the static and digital billboards and portable signs. So it is the Chamber of Commerce's position that relaxation of this bylaw would potentially allow these signs in higher traffic areas and benefit a greater amount of businesses. If elected, would you be agreeable to working with the Chamber on this issue? Chris.
I'm glad to answer this question. My position is that I'm not in favor of third-party signage. I was on MPC when the decision was made to turn down a sign, billboard sign on Highway 20. Quite frankly, I don't want our community to be covered with all kinds of huge signs. Ideally, down the road, once we get rid of one not too aesthetic business in that area, I want this to be a pleasant place to come into and not people to be inundated with large billboard kinds of signs. I think that there's lots of other ways that businesses can get their word out, and I don't think that that's the appropriate way to go. In terms of working with the Chamber, sure, I'm more than willing to work with the Chamber on this, but I'm not in favor of third-party billboard signs.
Thank you. And our last candidate to answer the question with respect to allowing third-party signage for private businesses in high-traffic areas to benefit those businesses. If you were elected, would you be agreeable to working with the Chamber to address this issue? Megan.
Yes, absolutely. I'd be willing to work with the Chamber. I have a lot of respect for the entire business community coming together with a recommendation to Council. But that being said, I think there's really appropriate places for that kind of signage, and there's a lot of places where it's not appropriate. I don't want to drive into town and see it littered with billboard after billboard. I think that there's actually some great opportunities when it comes to sign placement to promote businesses that would absolutely work, and it could require a relaxation to the bylaw. But as a general rule, no, I don't believe that our community should be littered with it. So, yeah, it'd be a case-by-case basis for me.
Thank you. The other question I want to ask the candidates is, what role do you believe the town should play in promoting tourism for Sylvan Lake? And if elected, would you advocate for the town to take a greater or lesser leadership position? Deborah.
I believe that, yes, the town should be a part of tourism. I think that the more tourism we have is better for our community. It's going to keep rate paying down. One of the ways that I think that we could be more involved in tourism is more winter festivals and more winter opportunities that we could bring into the town. I know there's tons of different things for the summer. I'd like to see more winter, maybe the ice festival. Candy Cane Lane is in Edmonton. Maybe there's something here we can look at for that. So I think that the town has been doing a fantastic job at bringing in tourism. I think that we can continue to work at that, and I would be happy to do that if I was councillor, to try to bring more tourism into Sylvan Lake. Thank you.
Thank you. So what role do you believe the town should play in promoting tourism for Sylvan Lake? And if elected, would you advocate for the town to take a greater or lesser role? Ted. I'm giving Mike his work out here.
One of my favorite subjects. I think there's been a bit of a drift in this community away from tourism. Some people think their quality of life is negatively affected by tourism. I don't. I think it's one of the vibrant things about Sylvan. All the people that come here and bring their energy and their ideas to have a little fun in Sylvan Lake, maybe that's part of what we're missing. And I think the town is the best promoter of the town. We have been in the past, but we haven't been probably for the last 10 years, my opinion.
Thank you. I'm going to ask one more candidate the same question. What role do you believe the town should play, either a greater or lesser leadership position in tourism? Star.
So I definitely think we should be playing a larger role in tourism. The power of hashtag, I see Sean doing it all the time. Myself, I'm continually doing a lot of Go Live feeds. I'm out visiting all the little spots and places within our community and I'm going live and I'm telling people to share it. I want more people to come here. I want more people to enjoy our community the way I do. And so I think if we continue to use the power of social media, that's just one really easy way for the town of Sylvan Lake to actually get more involved, to promote more tourism. I want Sylvan Lake to be a whole experience, something that we see year-round. So it's not just like a whole bunch of hashtags and social media throughout the year or throughout the summer, but also through the winter, and definitely driving more people here for all the activities that we have in the winter.
Thank you. What we're going to do now is just take a 10-minute intermission and to allow their seats to cool down a bit because they're going to be on the hot seat again in about 10 minutes. So we'll ring the bell to get you back to your seats in about 10 minutes. And there's coffee in the back, so you're welcome to enjoy some Timmies. So here we are again to put our candidates on the hot seat, and just to remind all of you who our candidates actually are, I'm just going to run quickly through them. So I'll ask you not to clap in between, but I will just mention their names again and they can just wave. We have Daryl Carrier. We have Megan Chernoff Hansen. We have Charles Everest. Ted Iverson. Kendall Kloss. We have Chris Lust, Barry McGow, Tim Mearns, Graham Parsons, Jazz Payne, Matthew Preet, Teresa Rilling, Star Roshuk, and Deborah Weens. So we'll start the process again of asking the question, and I will be selecting the names of the candidates to answer the question. The first question I'm going to be asking at this part of the event is, what are your views on seniors' accommodation and transportation? Is there any issues that you feel need to be addressed? Kendall.
Thank you. As far as accommodations, absolutely. We have an opportunity here in Sylvan Lake. We have development coming on the west side of town. We have empty lots in our downtown core. Our long-term residents, they deserve to stay within the community that they have spent a lifetime in, a community that they've invested in. And it is my goal to see that through. I went through that with my father. He had to move away from his community that he was in his whole life to go to Stettler. And that was heartbreaking for us as a family. And so my goal is to make sure that our seniors in our town, they can stay together as a husband and wife, because I know that is sometimes not the case. They have to be split up. And so I want to make sure that they stay together so that family unit stays together. And that'll draw in more people into Sylvan Lake. Now, as far as transportation, yes, I know that we do have transportation for our seniors, but I want to make sure it goes further than that. So we need to accommodate for our seniors. When we build a town that is accommodated for our seniors, we build a town that will accommodate all families. So I look forward to seeing that.
They asked me to do something technical, turn this on and off. So, Daryl, what are your views on senior accommodation and transportation? Are there any issues that you feel need to be addressed?
Well, I definitely think that there are a lot of businesses throughout the community as our population ages that it's quite difficult getting people with accessibility issues in walkers, wheelchairs, and whatnot, and it's discouraging and it's heartbreaking to see. There was an older gal who I was trying to help in to the facility today, and there's a lot of buildings that are somewhat old in this town that kind of limit the accessibility for our seniors, especially seniors, again, with disabilities. I would love to see more wheelchair parking locations throughout our community, and definitely would like to impose heavier fines for people who are taking advantage of our seniors. Is that it? Oh, 15 seconds, sorry. Also, I'd love to improve the mobility and the busing for seniors. I think they're the heart of our community. They've been here. They built this community to what it is today, and we owe a lot to them. Thank you.
Thank you. And the last candidate, we're going to ask the question of what are your views on senior accommodation and transportation? If there's any issues you feel need to be addressed, is Jazz.
I do, actually. I feel very strongly that, you know, much like Kendall said, we have a population that deserves to be here, that deserves to stay at home. In order to do that, we have to have developers who are willing to build these facilities. It's not, unfortunately, it's not the town's responsibility to build these facilities. If anything, it's something we need to lobby the province and help developers find ways to see this as a positive way to contribute to the community. With that being said, we have continually worked to try and make better decisions about transportation. We are unfortunately right in a weird size for our community, in that it's fiscally difficult to have public transportation. But I can tell you for sure it's definitely on the minds of council, and it's something we've been working towards trying to get to Sylvan Lake. It's just a matter of fiscal responsibility at this point.
Thank you. Our next question for the candidates is, what is your stand on the preservation of our heritage buildings in our town and the implementation of a historic program? Matt.
Well, I think we've identified some of the historical buildings in town already. That's one of the initiatives that we took. We have some. We do not have a large inventory of historic buildings in town to look after. Unfortunately, some of our historic buildings are uninhabitable buildings that are in our downtown that we shouldn't have there. So, you know, we certainly need to, we've certainly identified the ones that are historic buildings, and then we need to move and preserve those. I believe in preservation of that. It's primarily a private thing. Unfortunately, the town doesn't own those. We can put in some parameters around those things, but there is limitations on what we can do. We have to have a willing landowner to help preserve those buildings as well. So it might sound complicated, because it is fairly complicated, and we can't just arbitrarily impose that on landowners.
Thank you. So what is your stand on preservation of the heritage buildings in our town and the implementation of an historic program, Graham?
Well, that's much like Matt said, and Matt answered all the questions, so it's pretty simple. We don't have a long history. We have a history, but we don't have a history of big buildings that are worth it. We do have some, but we don't have a lot. And I'm always for preserving whatever history we can have, and so definitely we would work towards making sure that anything that is preservable and is willing by the owner to transfer that or to help out, by all means. I'm all for preserving history.
Thank you. And sorry, candidates, I forgot to mention that when you are using the microphone, just to hold it up. And if anyone in the audience is not hearing, please wave and let us know if you're not catching what people are saying. So our last candidate to answer the question about the historic buildings and the preservation of them in our town would be Teresa.
Well, they pretty much covered it all. But for me, any history dictates our future. And if we have like old buildings that we need to rejuvenate or can bring back for however we can do that, I'm all for it. But even more than that, I think our history could be documented, whether they're pictures or whatever we need to do to look for that history and have it maybe within a book or some way of remembering what was, with pictures, as well as if there are actual landmarks that could be landmarked, and maybe a plaque set there, even if there is no building remaining. But never forgetting our history does make a difference in our future. Thank you.
Thank you. My next question is from the Chamber, and it is: the local economy has suffered significantly with the economic downturn over the last few years. What is your vision for the local economic growth in Sylvan Lake, and what strategies should be implemented to achieve it? I'm going to start with Deborah with that question.
Could I actually get you to repeat that question? I didn't catch it all.
Oh, certainly. So the local economy has suffered significantly with the economic downturn over the last few years. What is your vision for the local economic growth in Sylvan, and what strategies should be implemented to achieve it? Deborah.
I'm not going to lie, that's a hard question. I would like to see the downtown revitalized, as would most people in the community. I think we need to look at what opportunities there are for businesses to come in, what strategies we can put in place. Do I have all the answers here right now? No. Would I be absolutely willing to listen to people within this room and in Sylvan Lake to hear what their ideas are? Yes. One person in this room isn't going to have all the answers. That's why there is a council. That's why there is this process, so that we can all stand together, come up with the best decisions possible, and move forward. I personally, like I said, I don't have a vision for Sylvan Lake myself on how we're going to fix every problem. But I'm certainly willing to try to work with people, the chamber, to get that vision in place and task it out to make it happen within a timely manner. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm going to ask the same question of Charles. The local economy has suffered significantly in the economic downturn over the last few years. What is your vision for growth in Sylvan Lake, and what strategies would you see to implement this?
My vision for growth would be tourism, definitely, and to support our small businesses too. When you're going shopping, take that extra 5 minutes, drive around the corner, visit your local butcher shop, buy your flowers local, eat, drink, just think local. Go to your local flower shop, go to your local card shop, go try to do as much as you possibly can in the local community. It's going to get people working, it's going to keep jobs here, and promote Sylvan Lake as the beautiful town that it is. Come up with some new ideas for tourism. Thank you.
Thank you. And our last candidate to answer the question about the economic downturn and what strategies to promote the growth in Sylvan Lake would be Matt.
Hey, finally a question I like. The interesting thing about Sylvan Lake is we talk a lot about downtown revitalization. And the reality is we're not getting a grocery store back down there. We're not getting a hardware store back down there. We have to turn the downtown of Sylvan Lake into a destination. And what that means is that the town as a municipality basically owns no land south of Lakeshore Drive. And so that's all private land. All we can do as a town is bring the people down. If we bring, my belief, to get that downtown revitalized, if we can bring people down to the lakefront, they will filter into the downtown, and people will see opportunities and businesses will open. And so that's what we have to do. And that's part of this whole waterfront vision. That's part of buying the old waterslide property. That's part of looking at taking over the provincial park, is a whole waterfront vision to bring people downtown on a consistent basis, which will help revitalize our downtown. Thank you.
I do want to remind people that these are questions that are coming forward that are from you people, from the audience. And so putting these people in the hot seat and answering the hard questions. So my next question for the candidates is, do you have a solution for affordable housing? Some residents have wanted to purchase their own land to put up their mobile homes or modular homes, but can't in Sylvan. Would you include that as part of your solution to the affordable housing issue? Star.
So solution for affordable housing. Some of my ideas would be definitely looking at other communities within Alberta that deal with the environment, the temperatures that we live in. You know, can we live in a tiny house in our winters? Do we have spaces for tiny houses here? Can our seniors live in tiny houses? These are ideas that I see other communities doing, and I don't see why we can't do that as well. I really believe that we should be collaborating with all the other communities that are facing all the same struggles that we are. And I think by doing that, we're going to come up with a solution and then hopefully share that solution with other communities just like us. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm going to ask also, Daryl, do you have a solution for affordable housing? And given that some residents have wanted to purchase their own land, put up their homes for sale, and can't, would you include that as part of your solution for affordable housing?
Well, seeing that I wanted to get into real estate in the next couple of years, this is a pretty tough question to answer, to be honest with you. I think there should be more geared to income housing available in our community. There's a big population of Albertans right now who are living under the poverty line and struggling paycheck to paycheck. I think the economics of it all are quite important to factor into, and you know, the more restrictions the CMHC are putting on first-time homeowners and whatnot, it's making it more difficult. You know, the financial stress test that they're doing for people, for first-time homeowners, it's making it cumbersome for first-time homeowners to actually afford to purchase their own house. So you know what, that's it's a pretty difficult question, but I definitely support geared to income housing, and I think that the people, the less fortunate should have housing and enjoy our community as well.
Thank you. And I'm going to ask Megan the same question. Do you have a solution for affordable housing? And what would you include as part of your solution?
Well, when it came to mobile homes, yes, absolutely. We need a really diverse group or diverse variety of housing available in Sylvan Lake. I think some of the things that we have done on the current council to make that work so far, to the best of our ability, is making different restrictions around garage suites so that people could have, quite often it's families stay in that, having secondary suites. There's a number of ways that we can bring diverse housing on top of mobile homes back into our neighborhoods just by increasing that density in some areas. We certainly have had the conversation that there's some places that that's just not appropriate, and you have to keep that in mind as well. I think the other portion of this is we have to continue to lobby other levels of government to help support us in this quest to have more affordable housing in Sylvan Lake. So some of this certainly is within our control, but some of it requires some lobbying work.
My next question for the candidates is, sometimes as a councillor, you will have to lobby for a cause we believe in for the provincial government. Would you lobby the provincial government to reopen Highway 781, which is Highway 11, to allow easier access to the downtown area. Jazz.
I love this question. I don't even know where to begin with this. Because in all honesty, you can lobby as much as you want, but if Alberta Infrastructure, Alberta Highways has decided this is what it's going to be, and they have a 25-year plan for how it's going to change, I can tell you a lot of folks have done a lot of lobbying and spoken to a lot of people to try and get things changed, and the plan is there. I would love to say that, you know, the Council of Seven is going to be able to stand in front of Alberta Highways and Alberta Transportation, and they're going to change their mind. They're not gonna. They've got a plan for how it's going to work. The plan is intense. The plan is huge. The plan is decades in the future. There's a whole lot of stuff I'll lobby for, but I'm not sure running against that same brick wall is a useful way to use my time. Anything else you want to lobby for? I'm your guy, but I'm not sure that's one that's going anywhere. It's kind of dead horse.
Thank you. So let's get another comment on lobbying the provincial government for the reopening of Highway 781/11 to allow easier access. Graham.
Well, I was there. At the time, it was a question that came up, and we went all through meetings with AT, Alberta Transportation, and they definitely, as Jazz said, they have a vision. They do it all over the province. They do different things. However, at the meetings with AT, they asked me and what my preference was, if I had a choice after all the decisions that had been made. And I did say that I would like lights at 781, and I did say that I'd like lights at 60. And slow the traffic down temporarily, and at that point, that was my decision and my view. Now I know that it is a dead horse, and unfortunately, there are, as Jazz said, different ways of using our time and lobbying for different transportation issues. So, yes, I would love to have seen it happen. But it didn't, and it won't.
Thank you. Well, we get to hear one more opinion on that, lobbying the provincial government to reopen Highway 781/11, and that'll be from Kendall.
Well, if we're lobbying the government, we need to make sure that we're choosing what we're lobbying. We're not going out there and, like they're saying, this is an issue that has been brought about before, and it's an issue that we're not going to get much further. So we need to use our time more wisely. For myself, you know, I need to think about, do Sylvan Lakers, if we reopen that, what's the benefit for us? For me, you know, living in Peerview, when I would drive out to there, you know, crossing down to 781, and I traveled to Innisfil quite a bit, working for Chinook's Edge School Division, and I don't mind going the extra mile one way and the other mile the other way, knowing that I can cross that highway safely. And so to reopen that can of worms or go down a road that we know it's a dead end, that's not using our time as council or as a town wisely, because it's not going to benefit us too much. We still have the right-of-way coming in from Red Deer. We can make that full right-hand turn into there. We can use 60th as a great entrance to that part of town, and it just helps to diversify the traffic from the west side of town to the east side of town, and not just coming all the way straight down that main street. So my goal is for safety for our residents, and so I believe that we should not go down that path. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question is, with the increasing use of the lake, how do you propose we keep the lake shore and the lake water clean? Teresa.
Well, I was at the lake cleanup on last Sunday, and we picked up a lot of cigarette butts and a lot of garbage like mountains of it. That is one way to keep the beach clean. But a better way to keep the beach clean is to actually put the cigarette butts in the garbage. Not when they're burning, of course. Please snuff them out. And I mean, we are doing all we can as far as taking care of our lake, keeping it clean. We have a beautiful spring that flows in and through it. And so we are I was at council on Monday night, and just the in-depth work that our town is doing at this present time was just incredibly impressive to me, to hear how they're moving the water and making sure that the fish aren't dying at the other end, and keeping our waters clean is of utmost importance to our community, and it's being done, and it will continue to be done. So I thank the town for all they've done and what they're doing.
Thank you. So Ted, what would you propose we do to keep our lake shore and the lake water clean?
In 1980, I think it was 1987, then the health inspector, Jim Gifford, came to me. It was my first summer, mayor of the town of Sylvan Lake, and I was really proud. I was really hyped. And he says, Ted, I have to close the beach. I said, Jim, you can't close the beach. He said, yes, I can. And the Health Act in Alberta is one of the most powerful pieces of legislation. And it can actually allow a health inspector, if he feels there's a just cause, to close a water area to swimming. He kind of let me off. At that time, he let me off the hook and said, there's contamination in that area. We have to find out what it is. Him and I spent that summer identifying all the different issues around the lake. We took my boat and did testing every second Sunday, identified the problems, and started reacting to it. Ralph Klein, Minister of Environment at the day, gave us $1 million to fix the #1 problem. But the second problem was the contamination from other communities.
Thank you. Thank you.
And we were working at that too.
Yeah.
And still are.
So let's also hear from Chris on how there's a proposal to keep our lake shore and our lake water clean.
Well, Sylvan Lake is our jewel, and it's sort of the essence of what, in many respects, what this community is all about. And it's critical that we maintain the water quality of the lake, and also making sure that the people that are using the lake are doing it in an environmentally appropriate way. Some of the things that I find very frightening is that we have an issue facing us in terms of zebra mussels, and certainly the province is doing a lot of excellent work in that area. We spend a lot of time on Pigeon Lake and have seen what the blue-green algae can do. And so there's the management all around the lake, and it's not just Sylvan Lake, it's all the municipalities around the lake, and there's 7 or 8 of them. We all have to work together to ensure that we're not putting fertilizer into the lake and increasing the nutrient levels. So it needs to be a cooperative approach. We also have the Sylvan Lake Management Plan, or management group, that has been working very hard.
Thank you. So our next question is, what is your vision for the cottage area? Tim.
So it's been interesting to see over the last 25 years the drastic change in the cottage area. We look at some of the residences that have been there for 25 plus years, and then we start seeing some of the newer buildings come up. It's interesting to think, and we talked a little bit about the heritage part of Sylvan. I truly believe that's part of heritage, is that cottage area. At the same time, I know there's people that have a vision for that, and as a community, and to understand what that should look like and go forward. I'm not a huge fan of 2-3 story complexes down there. But I think we need to make it really important that the cottage area stays a cottage area. There's great lots down there. There's some improvements that always can be done, but I think that's part of what Sylvan Lake is, and to keep it as a part of the cottage area.
Thank you. Barry, what is your vision for the cottage area?
Not much different from his, really. I don't want to see a bunch of big buildings down on the beach. I'm just, we've got enough of them. You know, like those are private residences. The owners of, we have the zoning for them to, they can tear down their cottage and build a new one. They can sell their cottage and someone else can build a new one. You know, but I don't want to see a bunch of walk-up apartments down in there, and I don't want to see a bunch of high-density housing down in there. Just personal opinion. You know, if it comes to that, we should almost take it to plebiscite so the people of the town can decide rather than just council, because you know, it's a very town-affecting thing to start making major changes in areas like that. And you know, we can't be revenue hungry enough to sell out the birthright of the town.
Thank you. And Daryl, I'm going to ask you, what is your vision for the cottage area?
Well, I think many years back, there's a lot of cottages around here that have been around since the 40s. This town was built on cottages. As it expanded and grew, cottages, well, in all honesty, I think cottages were obviously homes back, you know, many years ago, generations prior. And myself, I grew up at a cottage in Northern Ontario, and I spent a lot of my childhood there, so there's a lot of fond memories, and I'm sure a lot of us grew up, or you know, those who were fortunate enough that have family cottages were fortunate enough to spend a lot of time there, a lot of summers there, and I think it's detrimental to have these cottages untouched, and I think a lot of us, especially us Sylvan Lakers, have the opportunity to have families, cottages passed down through the generations, and I think it's imperative that these cottages be utilized, be kept in the family, and again, not being built these massive 2-3 story buildings where you can't see and enjoy the lake. Thank you.
Thank you. So my next question for the candidates are, what are you going to do about the lack of capacity for drinking water and wastewater? Megan.
If I could only properly convey how many hours of lost sleep that current council has lost over the last couple years, it is unbelievable. This is, as I mentioned in my top 3 priorities, I think the first question I got, this is our biggest priority that we have to deal with. Sylvan Lake has simply outgrown the systems that we have. Unfortunately, lagoons just will not continue to work, and we need to hook into a regional system. So it's great news for us with the announcements that this is something that's coming. Because there really isn't a lot of other options for us. We would have loved to dig into some other things, but this is the most feasible. This will be the quickest for us, and we need to have those predictable systems in place to keep Sylvan Lake growing. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm also going to ask that same question of Deborah, and what would you be doing about the lack of capacity for drinking water and the wastewater?
Well, I think first, it has been basically decided we are going to the interregional system, as Megan said. The one thing I think we really have to watch is we need to watch that we're looking at all aspects of the integration. Unexpected surprises during this integration will cost us money, and that's not something we want to do. We need to make sure that our quality stays to where it needs to be, because when we move it over to the integration, we're going to get the surcharges if it's not up to where it is. And make sure we're doing everything prior to the integration to make sure that it's a smooth sailing one. Thank you.
Thank you. So Kendall, what would you be doing about the lack of capacity for drinking water and wastewater?
Well, for our drinking water, we have about a 10-year window for the current well that we have. Now, we do have that water for that amount of time, but it's not a very long time. So obviously we need that vision. We need to look past that. And one of those is tying into a regional system. Yes, there's going to be costs associated with that, but also we need to remember, what would the cost be if we didn't tie into that? If we ran out of time with our well and we put our residents at risk without proper water and sewer. So yes, there's obviously a cost to it. Now, again, as a fiscal responsible council, they've had it in the plans as well, and talking with many different organizations on how we can do that, tying into the Red Deer system along Highway 11A. What's the best way to do it? So they're well ahead of the game. And so I feel this is definitely something that we have to take seriously, because it will end, but I know it's something that is definitely in the works, and it's going to work for all of us here in Sylvan Lake.
Thank you. So would you support a no idling bylaw in Sylvan Lake? But if not, why? Graham.
I certainly would. It's going to become an increasing problem in the environment is. It doesn't take too much to shut your car off. So basically, yeah, I'd support it 100%. Pretty simple.
Thank you. So, Star, would you support a no idling bylaw in Sylvan Lake? And if not, why?
Of course I'm going to support no idling. I believe in our future. I believe in our environment. And if we don't start doing this now, we're not going to have much of an environment. These are just little things that we can do on a daily basis to ensure the livelihoods and health of our earth and our families and our future. I mean, I go to BC quite regularly, and it's almost all no idle there. I have no problem with it. I see the diesel trucks there from Alberta going there to visit. They have no problems with it. They shut it off. They, complain about it. They say this or that. They shut their truck off, and they go on with their day. Why can't we do that here?
Thank you. And Matt, would you support a no idling bylaw? And if not, why?
I like the idea, but I don't think it needs to be a bylaw. There gets a point where government just intrudes too much into your life. How do you police it is the question. Is it going to be some do-gooder that calls in on their cell phone and calls municipal enforcement down, and then the truck's gone before they get there? So the logistics of having an anti-idling bylaw are really, really difficult. It's not a terrible idea. I think an education program is far better than a bylaw system, because then people just get educated and they do it properly. But to put a bylaw and then to enforce it is expensive. It'll never pay for itself. It's always something that taxpayers are going to have to pay extra for. And I think the benefits of it are really, really minimal. So I'm not in favor of a bylaw. I'm more in favor of an education program on that.
Thank you. Next question for our candidates is, what would you suggest to control our future spending so our future debt repayment decreases? Ted.
I believe there's already things in place with the province. There's the annual report card. I'm not sure if you're aware of it, but every municipality gets a kind of a report card every year. And it's kind of a red flag. If you don't deal with it as they see fit, you can go into management. They can fire the council, they can fire the administration, and take the place over. So there's checks and balances in place now.
Thank you. So I'll also ask Teresa what she would suggest to control our future spending.
Well, when I always think about the word budget, we call it the B word in our house, because it's always kind of a scary thing. And when I look at it in the magnitude of a community as this, and what we spend today, we pay for tomorrow. And so to me, we have to be intentional and very decisive, but also take the time and due diligence in making sure in what we're spending is worth the spending. And so, I mean, there's three answers in spending: yes, no, and wait. And sometimes wait means it's not going to happen for a while. And another thing is when we think about what we have to pay back later, we always pay more. So we need to ask the tough questions in the situation, not after it's been done, but before and during while we're spending. Thank you.
Thank you. And Tim, what would you suggest to control our future spending to keep that future debt repayment decreased?
So I talked a little bit about this in my opening, and it comes down to some basic business principles, some principles that in your own household comes down to need versus want, and then what's going to be at the end the return on your investment. We need to make sure that we hear what the people are saying as well in those situations, so that we're being responsible fiscally as well as being responsible to the community in making those decisions. At the end of the day, it's the town and it's the town's money, and we need to be responsible for that. And so just the basic principles that I've seen, it's been a tough economy over the last few years, and those basic principles that businesses have used to make the right decision is that need versus want and that return on investment. Thank you.
Thank you. And this is our last question that we've had submitted by the audience. So I will, and I see I've got 3 names left in my basket. So I will be asking, would you advocate for the improvement and the revitalization of Main Street? And if so, how do you propose to attract new businesses? Charles.
I've had the opportunity to sit on the Downtown Revitalization Committee. And yes, I definitely would advocate for the revitalization of the downtown. I think by putting everybody's heads together, coming up with some great ideas like we did with the window wraps and getting the more community involvement, there's some excellent ideas that we just got to get to fruition. There's the problem with some of the owners of the buildings downtown. They really don't want anything to do with revitalizing their property. They're just hanging on to it and not wanting to do with it. So I'm not sure if there's a possible way that we can get a bylaw in place to make people start rejuvenating the storefronts and maybe putting up some facades and that kind of stuff. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And now, Jazz, would you advocate for the improvement and revitalization of our Main Street? And how do you propose to attract new businesses?
This council, over the course of the last few years, has done a lot to try and do this, because it's been a huge part of at least the last 2 campaigns for council. The creation of the BRT, the Business Recruitment Team, is one thing that happened. Charlie mentioned the waterfront commercial revitalization. That's happening right now. We have the best relationship we've had in years with the chamber, and the chamber has been contracted to meet with businesses to try and find, again, ways to revitalize that area. Charlie alluded to the idea that there are people who aren't wanting to take the same steps. Council put together the facade improvement program that was only really taken up by one business owner or one property owner. That's the type of thing we do, making sure the non-residential tax rate is low, or something that businesses can take advantage of. This is honestly a question that a minute is not even close to being able to answer. There's a whole bunch more that I'd love to talk to you about if you want to keep going with this one at some point.
Yeah. Thank you. And I will ask Chris the same question about advocating for the improvement and revitalization of Main Street and how you propose to attract new businesses.
When I ran in the previous election, downtown revitalization was one of my top ones, and it continues to be the case in this particular election. This is a tough one. And like Jazz had mentioned, we are doing a lot of things to try and engage the business people. We're trying to create different programs that they could be involved in. And certainly the work that our Economic Development Officer has done has really moved the needle and got more cooperation between us, the Chamber, and businesses. But it's not a quick fix. It's something that's going to take time, and we need to try and encourage some niche businesses into the area. And there's the festivals and special events strategy that's going ahead that will help that as well.
Thank you. And that was our last question from the audience, and I thank the audience for participating and putting forward your questions, and I thank the candidates for answering even when we got on the hot seat. But I do want to remind people in the audience that the candidates will be hanging around for about half an hour. If you wanted to talk to them personally, ask them other questions, they will be here to answer your question. And I am now going to turn this over to Joel to close our meeting.
You're short. I'm going to just hold it. Well, there you have it. That's, thank you, Dave. That is democracy in action right there. You know, we had some tough questions. We had some easy questions. We had some good questions. We had some bad questions. But regardless, any question is an opportunity for a great answer. And I'd just like to thank all the candidates because I thought you did a great job of that. So please. You took us one step closer to an informed choice come election time, and we really appreciate you stepping up. That's fantastic. So I'd like to just, again, thank Town of Sylvan Lake, Tim Hortons. I'd like to thank my fellow board members for volunteering and helping pull this off. Special thanks to Kelly. I thought you did a great job. Thank you very much. I think I'm supposed to remind you of dates right now, aren't I? Well, we got dates up here. I can't find them, so I think we all know the dates. There you go. There's the dates right there. Thanks, Dwayne. That's great. So I'd encourage everybody to hang out, and if you get a chance to have some one-on-one time with candidates that you're interested in and ask a question individually, I think that would be another good opportunity to make an informed choice when it comes time. So again, thanks everybody for coming out. I thought this evening went really well, and have a great evening. So thank you.